That bathroom door closed with a click that changed everything. 4 hours locked in a windowless bathroom with diabetes and high blood pressure, while my own son celebrated his birthday on the other side. Betrayal smells like cheap soap and bathroom disinfectant. My name is Richard Miller. I'm 76 years old, and I worked my entire life as an accountant in Rochester, New York. I'm not a man of many words, but this story needs to be told because some people think the elderly don't feel, that the elderly don't matter, that they can lock their own father in a bathroom for hours and think it's just a little prank. But life teaches you, son, life teaches you. If you're enjoying this story, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Leave in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is when you're watching. New stories every day on this channel. It's good to know someone's listening, you know? This old man appreciates each one of you who takes time to listen to what I have to say. I worked more than 50 years of my life, riding crowded buses, arriving early, leaving late. I built my assets by the sweat of my brow, saving every penny. I bought my own house, a good house in a decent neighborhood. I raised my 2 children, Michael, who's now 48, and Karen, who's 45, giving them education, private school, college. I never denied my children anything. Perhaps that was my mistake. We think a child's love is guaranteed, don't we? That after so many sacrifices, so many sleepless nights, so many times saying no to ourselves so we can say yes to our children, we think all that counts for something in the end. But some children never learn to appreciate. Some children only see what they want, and in my son Michael's case, he only saw the inheritance he would receive one day. What he didn't count on was that I would still be very much alive on that day, and with a cell phone in my pocket. I was born in Ithaca, a small city about 90 miles from Rochester. My father was a farmer, a simple man who woke up with the roosters and went to bed shortly after the sun set. My mother, a homemaker, worked miracles with the little we had. We were 8 siblings. I was the 3rd oldest. From an early age, I learned that in life nothing comes for free. At 14, I was already working, helping on the farm and doing odd jobs as an office boy in an accounting firm in town. That's where I fell in love with numbers. The owner of the firm, Mr. Gerald, saw that I had a knack for it and began teaching me. "Richard, you've got a good head for numbers. Study, kid." And I studied. During the day I worked, at night I went to school. By the time I was 18, I was an accounting assistant, earning a slightly better salary. But Ithaca was too small for my dreams. I saved up some money, said goodbye to my family, and came to Rochester. Here I got a job at a larger firm, Rochester Accounting. I started at the bottom, as always, but quickly showed my worth. I attended college, studying accounting at night, studying after work hours, often falling asleep over my books. I had no time for partying, for dating, for those youthful things. My focus was on growing. I graduated at 27, already a full accountant at the company. My routine was demanding. I arrived at 7 a.m., checked entries, prepared balance sheets, attended to clients. During tax season, I barely slept. I spent nights helping business owners settle accounts with Uncle Sam. But I liked it, you know. I took pride in my work, seeing businesses grow with my help, seeing problems being solved in my hands. It was during one of those tax season late nights that I met Helen, the mother of my children. She came to the office all distressed, needing to declare an inheritance she had received and not knowing how to do it. She was a teacher, a widow with 2 jobs to support her home. I solved her problem in one afternoon. When I finished, she looked me in the eyes and said, "Mr. Miller, you saved my life." And I, already 30 years old and completely awkward with women, turned as red as a tomato. We started dating 3 months later. We married in less than a year. It was a quiet love, the kind you build day by day. She with her students, me with my numbers. On weekends, we would walk in the park, go to church, visit relatives. A simple life, but a good one. Michael was born when I was 32. Karen came 3 years later. That's when the happiest and most hard-working phase of my life began. I doubled my workload, took on more clients on the side. I wanted to give my children what I didn't have: comfort, security, opportunities. Helen left one of her jobs to spend more time with the kids, so the financial responsibility weighed even more on my shoulders. But I didn't complain. On the contrary, I felt important, useful, needed. The children grew up well. Michael was always quieter, calculating. From an early age, he liked strategy games, chess. Karen was the opposite, talkative, affectionate, full of friends. They were both good students, thank God. I managed to enroll them in St. Joseph's Academy, one of the best schools in the city. It wasn't cheap, no sir. Some months I had to work overtime even on Sundays to cover the tuition, school supplies, clothes, field trips. But seeing my children well-dressed, well-fed, studying at a good school, that was priceless. At 45, I managed to achieve another dream, opening my own accounting firm. I started small, with just 2 employees. But soon the clientele grew. My reputation in the city was good. People trusted my work. Over time, Miller Accounting became a reference in Rochester. We had up to 15 employees in our best phase. It was during this time that I bought the house. A good house, with 3 bedrooms, a large backyard on a tree-lined street in Brighton. It cost a fortune, but it was worth every penny. Helen cried when we entered for the first time. "Richard, we did it," she said, emotional. The kids ran from room to room, choosing their bedrooms, planning where they would put their things. It was one of the happiest days of my life. When Michael turned 18, it was time to think about college. He wanted business administration at Syracuse University, one of the most expensive in the state. Karen, 3 years later, chose law at the same university. Those were years of tightening our belts, saving on everything, working non-stop, but they graduated. Michael soon got a job at a multinational company. Karen joined a well-known law firm. I felt fulfilled seeing my children graduated, employed, set on their path in life. Helen got sick when I was 60. Cancer. We fought for 3 years, but she didn't make it. It was the greatest pain I've ever felt in my life. I was lost, without direction. It was my children who gave me the strength to continue. Michael was already married to Jessica, and Karen was in a serious relationship. Life went on despite the pain. I decided to retire at 65, passing the firm to younger partners. I had saved good money, had a decent retirement from Social Security, plus the rent from 2 condos I had bought as investments. I wasn't rich, but I had enough to live comfortably and still leave a decent inheritance for my children. It was around this time that I began to notice changes in Michael. He started visiting me more frequently, always asking about investments, about the properties, about how much I had saved. At first, I thought it was genuine concern for my financial well-being. Then, I realized there was something more to it. The visits were always accompanied by requests. "Dad, I need to renovate the house. Can you lend me some money?" "Dad, I'm thinking about changing cars. What do you think?" And I, the fool that I am, always helped. After all, what's the money I save for if not to see my children happy? Karen was different. She came to see me for the simple pleasure of my company. She brought food she made herself, watched TV with me, took me for walks in the park. When she needed help, she asked nicely, always promising to repay, and she actually did. The first big fight with Michael happened when he wanted me to sell one of the condos to invest in a business venture of his. I said no. That condo was part of the security I had built throughout my life. He was furious, called me a stubborn old man, a hardhead. He left slamming the door. We didn't speak for weeks. It was Jessica, my daughter-in-law, who came to apologize on his behalf. Michael was too proud to admit he was wrong. I forgave him, of course. A father always forgives. But things were never the same again. I noticed that Michael began to treat me differently. Impatient, irritated, as if I were a nuisance. At family gatherings, he barely spoke to me. When I gave an opinion, he rolled his eyes or left the room. I asked Karen if I was getting senile, if I was talking nonsense. "Of course not, Dad. It's Michael who's acting strange," she assured me. The tension kept growing and growing until it reached that day. The day of his birthday. The day that changed everything. The week of Michael's birthday, I received a phone call from him. A rare thing, you know. Normally it was Jessica who called, or Karen who informed me of things, but this time it was him. "Dad, we're having my birthday at your house on Saturday," he said, without even asking if I wanted to or could. It wasn't a request, it was a notification. At my house, son, but it's been a long time since I've hosted so many people. The house needs painting and the house is big, Dad. It has a backyard. And it's close to most of the guests' homes, he cut me off, impatient. We'll set everything up, don't worry. I felt uncomfortable refusing. Deep down, I was also happy that he wanted to celebrate at his father's house. Perhaps it was a sign of reconciliation. We always cling to hope, don't we? All right, son, how many people will there be? About 50, more or less. But relax. Jessica will organize everything. You just need to provide the space. Provide the space. As if the house where he grew up, where I spent so many sleepless nights working to pay the mortgage, was just any space. But I swallowed hard and agreed. In the days leading up to the party, the house became a commotion. Jessica hired a cleaning crew. Tables, chairs, tents, and decorations arrived. I tried to help, but always heard, "Leave it to us, Mr. Miller." No need to get involved, Mr. Miller. It's better if you stay in your room so you don't get in the way. I felt like a stranger in my own home, a nuisance. The day before the party, Karen came to visit me. She immediately noticed my low spirits. "What's wrong, Dad? Why the long face?" I told her how I was feeling, excluded from the preparations, treated like a useless old man. "It's just a party, Dad. It'll be over soon," she tried to console me. "Michael is nervous because he invited some bosses from his company. He wants to impress them. You know your son." I do know him, I thought. Or at least I thought I did. On the day of the party, I woke up early and dressed with care. I wore my best shirt, put on cologne, trimmed my beard. I wanted to look presentable to the guests, to show that I was still a dignified man, the owner of the house. The first guests started arriving around 5 p.m. Michael introduced me to some work colleagues, but soon left me on my own. I wandered around alone, trying to start conversations here and there. Most of the people were young, talking loudly, drinking a lot. I felt out of place. Around 7 p.m., when the house was already packed, I tried to go to the kitchen to get a glass of water. It was time for my blood pressure medication, which I had left in the living room. The heat, the noise, all of it was giving me a headache. That's when Michael saw me and came towards me. I thought he was finally going to give me some attention, ask if I was doing all right. "Dad, I need to show you something," he said, grabbing my arm firmly. He pulled me down the hallway towards the service bathroom, that small one next to the laundry room. He opened the door and motioned for me to enter. "What is it, son? What do you need to show me in the bathroom?" "Get in there, old man," he ordered, with a voice he had never used with me before, a cold, authoritarian voice. Confused, I entered the bathroom. Before I could turn around, I heard the door slam behind me. And then the worst sound I've ever heard in my life, the click of the key turning from the outside. "Michael, what is this? Open the door, son." "Stay quiet in there for 6 hours," he yelled from the other side. "I don't want a grumpy old man at the party." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. This had to be some kind of bad joke. "Michael, open this door right now. It's time for my medication. Knock on the door and I'll break you." I heard a heavy noise. It seemed like he was dragging some piece of furniture to block the door. My heart raced. This was no joke. "Help!" I shouted, banging on the door hard. "Is anyone there? Help me!" But the sound of music outside was deafening. No one could hear me from there. The service bathroom was in an isolated corner of the house, far from the area where the party was happening. I looked around, desperate. It was a tiny bathroom, without windows. Just a toilet, a small sink, and a shower. The air was already starting to feel heavy, suffocating. My God, I thought, I'm locked in here. My own son locked me in a bathroom during his birthday party. How is this possible? I sat on the toilet, trying to control my panic. I needed to think. My blood pressure medication was in the living room. I'm diabetic. I needed to eat regularly. And now I was trapped, without food, without water except from the faucet, without medication. The first hours were of desperation. I shouted. I banged on the door until my hands hurt. No one came. The music outside was too loud. I tried to calm down, to think rationally. Who could help me? Karen hadn't arrived at the party yet. She told me she would come later because she had a work commitment. That's when I remembered my cell phone. By a miracle, it was in my pants pocket. I checked the battery, 31%. It wasn't much, but it might be enough. I opened the phone app with trembling hands. I had 47 contacts saved, cousins, nephews, all the relatives scattered throughout Rochester and the surrounding area. If I couldn't make anyone at the party hear me, maybe I could reach someone outside. I started a video call to Karen. For the first few seconds, no one answered. My heart sank. But then Karen's face appeared on the screen. "Dad, is everything okay? I'm just leaving for the party now." "Karen!" My voice came out choked with emotion. "Daughter, help me. Michael locked me in the service area bathroom." She widened her eyes, not understanding. "What do you mean, Dad? What are you talking about?" "It's true, honey. Look." I rotated the camera, showing the small bathroom, the closed door, the claustrophobic space where I was trapped. "I've been here for more than 2 hours already, in my own house, at his birthday party." As I spoke, I decided to call my nephew John, too. He was close to the house and could get there quickly. "Uncle Richard?" he answered, surprised to see me calling. "What's going on?" "John, I need help. Michael locked me in the bathroom at his party." John's face showed shock, then anger. "He did what? Uncle, are you serious?" "Completely serious," I replied, indignant. "He pulled me here, closed the door and turned the key. Then he said I would be locked up for 6 hours, and he threatened me if I made noise." The comments of indignation exploded from both Karen and John. "That's outrageous. Your own father. This is a crime. It's unlawful imprisonment. And Mr. Miller is diabetic, isn't he? He needs his medication." At that moment I felt a clarity I had never felt before. It was as if all the years of disrespect, all the small humiliations, all of Michael's contemptuous looks had culminated in this final act of cruelty. And something inside me broke. The unconditional love of a father that always made me overlook everything, forgive everything. "Listen, both of you," I spoke with a firm voice that surprised even myself. "Record this. I want witnesses." Karen, always attentive, began recording the video call. John was listening in silence. "I, Richard Miller, of sound mind and body, declare at this moment that my son Michael is officially disinherited. For locking me in the bathroom, for mistreating me, for humiliating me in front of his friends. The house, the money, everything goes to Karen." There was a moment of shocked silence. Then I rotated the camera again, showing the marks on my arm where Michael had grabbed me forcefully. "Look what he did. He assaulted me. He locked me up. In the house that I bought with the sweat of my labor, in the house where he grew up." John began to speak, outraged. "Uncle, I'm coming over right now." Karen joined in. "Dad, stay calm. I'm in the car. I'll be there in 30 minutes. I'm calling the police to meet me there. Hang in there. Honey, bring water. And my blood pressure medicine. I'm starting to feel unwell." It was true. Already in the 3rd hour of confinement, I began to feel the symptoms of uncontrolled diabetes. Cold sweat, dizziness, blurred vision. Hypoglycemia was setting in, and without food or my medications, the situation could quickly worsen. I made another video for Karen and John, while I still had strength and battery life on my cell phone. "If I die here in this bathroom," I said, my voice weak but determined, "Michael is the only one to blame. You are both my witnesses. He locked me in here knowing I'm diabetic and have high blood pressure." The following minutes dragged on like hours. I sat on the cold floor, leaning against the wall, trying to stay conscious. The phone battery was running out, but I needed to stay connected. It was my only line to the outside world. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, I heard raised voices outside. The music decreased in volume. Someone was shouting, "Michael, where's my dad?" It was Karen's voice, strong, furious. "What dad? Are you delirious?" I heard Michael reply with a nervous laugh. Then another voice, deeper and more authoritative. "Good evening, I'm Officer Jenkins from the Rochester Police Department. We received a report of unlawful imprisonment at this address." My heart leaped. They had arrived. I gathered my last strength and shouted, "I'm here in the service bathroom." I heard hurried footsteps, voices approaching. Someone tried to open the door, but it was blocked by the furniture Michael had placed. "Is there anyone in there?" "It's me, Richard Miller. I've been locked in for almost 4 hours. Everyone stand back, ordered the policeman. We're going to have to force the door. A loud crash, and the door finally gave way. The hallway light flooded the small bathroom, blinding my eyes. When I could see again, I saw Karen, 2 police officers, and several guests looking at me, shocked. I was on the floor, pale, in a cold sweat, almost passed out after 4 hours locked up without food or medication. Michael appeared behind the others, his face a mask of panic. "Dad! Dad!" I raised my eyes to him, feeling a mixture of pain, anger, and disappointment that I had never experienced before. "You see me now, huh?" I murmured bitterly. When the police arrived, the guests began to pull out their cell phones, filming everything. The party had abruptly ended, replaced by a family drama that no one expected to witness. The paramedics arrived shortly after. My blood pressure was through the roof, my blood sugar dangerously low. I was rushed to the hospital, diagnosed with severe dehydration, diabetic crisis, extremely high blood pressure, and psychological trauma. Michael was arrested on the spot, charged with unlawful imprisonment, elder abuse, and attempted bodily harm. Jessica cried, begging Karen not to go ahead with the accusation, that it was just a prank. Karen, furious, responded with what was on everyone's mind. 4 hours locked up without food or medication is a prank? That has a name. It's attempted homicide by omission. While I was still in the hospital, recovering from the physical and emotional trauma, the video of my rescue began to circulate. My nephew John had posted on social media the moment when the police broke down the bathroom door and found me fallen, semi-conscious. The title of the video was simple and impactful. "Son locks 76-year-old father in bathroom during party." In less than 24 hours, it reached 5 million views. Reporters began to call, wanting interviews, sordid details of the story. I rejected them all. That was painful enough without turning it into a public spectacle, but the video had a value that I hadn't initially imagined. It was irrefutable proof of what had happened. It was no longer the word of a senile old man against that of a respectable son. It was a visual document, witnessed by dozens of people, showing the raw reality of the situation. Even more important than this video, however, was the recording of the video call I made to Karen and John, where I declared Michael's disinheritance. Karen had saved everything, including their reactions, my progressive signs of illness, the marks on my arm. My relatives in Rochester and beyond became a merciless tribunal. The messages kept coming. "Monster! How could you do this to your own father? Inhuman! Deserves jail!" Jessica tried to defend Michael, saying he had drunk too much, that he wasn't in his right mind, that it was just a prank gone wrong. Karen responded with a coldness I had never seen in my always sweet daughter. 4 hours is not a prank, Jessica. It's premeditation, it's cruelty, it's a crime. Michael spent 2 days in jail before getting provisional release. When he got out, he tried to visit me in the hospital. I refused. I didn't want to see him. I didn't want to hear his excuses. Something inside me had died in that bathroom. When I was discharged 3 days later, Karen took me to her house. "Dad, you're not going back to that house until this case is resolved," she said, determined. "I'll take care of you here." A week after the incident, physically recovered but still emotionally shaken, I made the most difficult decision of my life. I asked Karen to call Mr. Roberts, my trusted lawyer, for more than 20 years. "I want to formalize what I declared in the video call," I explained when he arrived. "I want to officially disinherit Michael, change my will." Mr. Roberts explained the legal details. In the United States, the law in New York State allows a parent to disinherit a child, especially in cases of abuse, and we had clear evidence of abuse. "We have solid evidence, Mr. Miller," the lawyer assured after watching the videos. "The video call where you declare the disinheritance while still imprisoned, the rescue video, the medical reports proving the damage to your health, the witnesses. I've rarely seen such a clear case." The next day, we went to the notary's office. Karen accompanied me, holding my arm with affection as I signed the documents that altered my will. Officially, Michael would receive nothing from my estate. All the assets, the house, the 2 condos, the savings, would go to Karen. As part of the process, We officially registered the video of the video call and the rescue as legal evidence, along with a detailed medical report outlining the risks I faced by spending so much time without proper medication and adequate food. What Michael did, explained Mr. Roberts, can be classified as attempted homicide by omission, in addition to unlawful imprisonment and elder abuse. These are serious crimes. Justice moved with unusual speed, perhaps due to the public outcry the case generated. Michael was formally indicted, and the process moved quickly. His lawyer tried to argue that it was just a tasteless prank, that he was intoxicated, that he had no intention of causing harm. But the evidence was irrefutable. The key witness came from where we least expected, one of the party guests, Michael's friend, who admitted to having heard him say, days before, that the old man would ruin everything, and that he had a plan to keep him away from the party. It was clear premeditation. Jessica, seeing her husband sink, began to distance herself. Friends, work colleagues, everyone began to avoid him. His company, a multinational with a strong code of ethics, opened an administrative process to evaluate his conduct. When the video of my rescue reached the directors, dismissal for just cause was almost immediate. We cannot keep in our staff someone capable of such violence against his own elderly father, said the dismissal letter, which leaked to the press. Meanwhile, I was slowly recovering at Karen's house. Physically, I was fine. But psychologically, the scars were deep. I developed claustrophobia. I could no longer enter small bathrooms without feeling panic. I had frequent nightmares where I was trapped, screaming with no one to hear me. Karen hired a psychologist to help me. In the first sessions, I could barely talk about what happened without crying. How could a son I raised with so much love do something like this to me? Mr. Miller, the psychologist explained gently, some people see their parents only as a means to their ends. Michael probably always saw you as a provider, someone who existed to satisfy his needs. When he felt that you no longer served this purpose, when he began to see you as an obstacle, he acted according to this distorted view. 6 months after the incident, Michael's trial was concluded. He was sentenced to 3 years in semi-open prison for unlawful imprisonment, elder abuse, and attempted grievous bodily harm. It could have been a harsher sentence, but he was a first-time offender and had a good prior record. When he left the courtroom, handcuffed, our eyes met for the first time since that night. I saw no remorse in his eyes. I saw anger, as if I were to blame for everything that was happening to him. The same week as the trial, Jessica filed for divorce. Without a job, without a wife, without an inheritance, Michael was reaping what he had sown. I learned from relatives that he had to sell his car, then the house, to pay the debts that accumulated. He ended up living as a favor in the house of a distant cousin who felt sorry for him. Meanwhile, my life was taking a completely different direction. I sold the house where the incident occurred. I could never live there again with those memories. I bought a smaller, more modern apartment in the same building where Karen lived. She could visit me every day, but I maintained my independence. The therapy was working. Gradually, the claustrophobia decreased. I started to participate in a support group for elderly victims of family violence. They were more common than I imagined, unfortunately. Sharing my story and listening to others helped me understand that I wasn't alone, that I wasn't to blame for what happened. One of the most important moments of my recovery was when a prosecutor from the district attorney's office who worked on the case contacted me. "Mr. Miller," he said, "your story caught a lot of attention from our team. We're developing an awareness project about elder abuse. Would you be willing to give a testimonial to help other people in the same situation?" I accepted. The video with my testimony was used in schools, police stations, health centers. I received letters from elderly people who, inspired by my attitude, managed to report abuses they had been silently suffering. Karen, my guardian angel throughout this process, flourished in unexpected ways. A talented lawyer, she began to specialize in elder law. She opened her own firm, focused on defending people like me, who suffered abuse at the hands of those who should protect them. "Dad, you taught me so much," she told me one night as we had dinner together. "Now it's my turn to give back." Her law firm specializing in elder rights is growing. It started small, with just her and a secretary. Today it has 4 associate lawyers and a waiting list of clients. Many come because of my story, which became known in the region. I want the same lawyer as that gentleman who was locked in the bathroom by his son, they say when they call. Karen smiles when she tells me this. See, Dad, you've become a reference of resistance. Resistance. It's a strong word, one I never associated with myself. I always saw myself as a peaceful man who avoided conflicts, but in that bathroom, when I picked up the phone and reported what was happening, I resisted. When I declared the disinheritance, I resisted. When I went ahead with the process, despite the pressure from some relatives to not wash dirty laundry in public, I resisted, and that resistance inspired others. In the last 2 years, I've met dozens of elderly people who, encouraged by my story, reported abuses, broke toxic relationships with exploitative children, claimed their right to live with dignity. Each time I hear one of these stories, I feel that those 4 hours of suffering were worth it. As for Michael, I heard from relatives that he finally managed to stabilize. After working as a rideshare driver for a while, he found an administrative job at a small company. He's renting a modest apartment. His life will never be the same as before. The luxury, the status, all of that is gone. But he's surviving, like so many others who didn't have the opportunities he had. We don't keep in touch. Sometimes he calls on my birthday or Christmas, brief and superficial conversations. I don't hold a grudge, but I don't miss him either. I discovered that it's possible to love someone from a distance without allowing that person to be part of your daily life. Jessica remarried to a real estate businessman. Karen met her recently at a charity event and said she seemed happy, lighter. The divorce was the best decision she made. Our family reorganized after the storm. The Sunday lunches, which used to happen at my big house, now are at my apartment or Karen's. They are more intimate, with fewer people, but more affectionate. My nephews and their children come regularly. John, the nephew who posted the video of my rescue, jokes that I'm the most famous grandpa on social media. "You're a phenomenon, Uncle Richard," he says, laughing. "You should start a YouTube channel to tell your stories." Maybe one day I will. I have many stories to tell after 78 years of life, some sad, others happy, all with a lesson. The biggest lesson I learned is that it's never too late to stand up for yourself, to establish boundaries, to demand respect. Many elderly people accept mistreatment from their children because they feel guilty for being a burden, or because they fear loneliness, or because they believe they should sacrifice everything for family. I used to think that way myself. That night in the bathroom showed me how wrong I was. Real family doesn't lock you in a tiny space for hours. Real family doesn't put a party above your health and well-being. Real family respects, cares, protects. Today at 78, I am happier than I was at 76. I have less money. A good part was used in the legal process and in buying the new apartment. But I have more peace. I have fewer people around me, but more quality in the relationships I maintain. I have fewer certainties about the world, but more wisdom about human nature. And I have Karen, my daughter, my friend, my lawyer, my heroine. The person who broke down not only the door of that bathroom, but also the invisible chains that bound me to an unhealthy relationship with Michael. The other day, we were sitting on the balcony of my apartment, watching the sunset. Karen held my wrinkled hand between hers and said something I will keep forever. "Dad, that night was horrible, but if it weren't for it, Michael would have continued mistreating you little by little in ways that no one would notice until it was too late." It took something extreme to open our eyes. She was right. Sometimes it takes a violent storm to clear the air and reveal a new horizon. My storm came in the form of 4 hours in a small bathroom, and the new horizon was this life I have now, simpler, quieter, more authentic. If you are an elderly person who is suffering any type of abuse, be it physical, psychological, or financial, know that it's never too late to change this situation. There are people willing to help. There are laws that protect you. There is a dignified life waiting for you on the other side of fear. And if you are a son or daughter, remember, your parents will age. Their bodies will become more fragile, their minds perhaps slower. But inside that elderly body still lives the same person who held you in their arms when you were little, who worked hard to give you opportunities, who gave up their own dreams to fulfill yours. Respect that person. Honor that story. Take care with love. Because the way you treat your parents today will be the model for how your children will treat you tomorrow. As that old saying goes, those who don't respect their elders don't deserve respect from the young. Michael learned this in the worst way possible. I hope you learn from my example, not from his. Thank you for listening to me until now. If you liked it, leave your like and subscribe to the channel. If you watched until the end, comment below the word dignity. And don't forget to check out the other stories here on the channel. On the screen there are 2 that you'll like. A hug from this old man who learned late but learned well that the greatest legacy we leave in this life is not money or property, it's example. Visit Grandpa's Voice for more stories of wisdom and life experience.